Cool. Look at that. We have a mic now. Exciting, right? Hey, give people a minute. Make sure I have everything I need. Didn't actually check to see if I had a stick of butter. I swear I did. Somewhere. Perhaps in the freezer? I want frozen butter though. Whatever. I'll make it work. Close. Close to enough. So I'll trim some off of here and pretend that I was ready. Wouldn't be Warren's cooking show if he really had everything ready to go. It's okay, I got 2 minutes left. This is the untucked version, untucked segment of the show. And get this off to the side. Ooh, stretch. Have we all done our stretching today? Has it been a long week for everyone? Remember to walk, get up, don't sit at your desk all day. Do your stretching, do your calisthenics, all that fun stuff. I just watched a work from home training video on LinkedIn talking about ways to be successful working from home. Did not really account for the pandemic. It was from 3 years ago. But I think the guy just wanted to show off his technique doing push-ups because he did that at least a few times and talked about it a bunch. So yeah, that was fun. There was some good stuff, but I don't know. Could have been edited a little bit. Apparently, I am a vodka tonic person now. Who knew? I don't know. Maybe it's just because there's good tonic. Really, just the lime and the tonic, right? That's the good part. Don't even need the alcohol. You do. Is that Dorian? Hi, Dorian. Okay, I am almost ready. Just gonna wash up and get going. 5 o'clock on the dot. Cool. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of It's Good Enough to Eat. I'm Warren, and my pronouns are he, him. Mark's over there, and his pronouns are also he, him. That's my husband. Um, but you probably don't need to worry about hearing him playing VR over there because this way. Look, it's a mic. Oh, I upgraded. Uh, One of many upgrades I need next is I have lights even, but I will set them up. It's not been such a big deal because it is somehow light out right now. Um, Daylight savings, right? I think is just hitting. So I actually have some good light today. Still shiny, but whatever. We'll deal. I will just reuse that bin. Cool. So, by special request, today we are doing Cherry pie or cherry tart, depending on how ambitious and how much extra dough I have, because I haven't measured for how big this recipe is. I should have enough to do a pie, because the only real difference between a tart and a pie, uh, I mean functionally, is if it's covered with pastry dough, it's a pie. If it's not covered, it's a tart. I mean, there's all sorts of different things you can do for shapes and sizes and decorations and whatever. But pretty much the only thing that I could find that distinguishes between the tart and the pie is whether or not it's covered. Doesn't even have to be fully covered, just like any dough on top makes it a pie. So, whatever. Do it how you like it. It's kind of my mantra, right? So, first thing, get that oven set. 375. Turn on a fan so we don't set off any smoke alarms. And get started. So, amazingly enough, I still had cherries in the freezer, which helps when you're requested to make a cherry pie. So these have been defrosted and soaking in just some sugar and salt and lime juice. That is helping me draw out the liquid. This is more liquid than you would have with fresh cherries because they were frozen, so there was a little excess ice in there. But it doesn't matter because we are draining it and we will not use most of the juice. So that is the first thing I'm doing. I've got my strainer set up with a bowl, and I'm just going to dump my cherries in there to get most of that juice drained out for me. I guess it's the second thing. I said the first thing twice. First thing was the oven, second thing was drain the cherries, but really the first thing was the cherries because I put that on a little over an hour ago to start macerating. If that could be your vocabulary for the week. Macerate. That is just the action of putting, like when you put sugar or salt on things, it helps draw the liquids out, and then you drain it. So the macerating is just kind of that process, that food process. Um, yeah. So let's make the dough. I've got my you might recognize by now my favorite vessel over here, and I've got it on a scale, so I'm going to measure out. I've already got the flour in there. We'll add my sugar. It's not very much sugar. It's only a lightly sweet dough. It's not like a pâte sucrée, I think, is another tart recipe. Or tart dough recipe. This is real simple. I'm doing this one because I don't need to chill the dough. It just comes together really quick and rolls out nicely, and I don't have to mess around. So there was my sugar and my salt, and we could be nice and accurate because I've got my scale over here. And that is just going to whisk together, and I don't need to sift my flour because just whisking the sugar and even that little bit, it's about 10% of the amount of sugar. That will just help me get in there and break up any lumps in my flour, and I don't have to worry about sifting it. Especially because my sifter is already dirty over here, filled with cherry stuff. So I wouldn't want to have to use it. So then I've got my butter, which I think I weighed out. Yeah, it's close enough. So my butter, I'm just going to grab a knife. I'm just going to chop this up into little chunks and then incorporate it with my fingers. You could also use a pastry cutter, which I don't think I have one of, or a food processor, which I have but I don't want to wash. And I kind of just like getting my hands in there. So I'm just going to get this into small bits and dump it in the flour. This is sticky butter. And I want to do this pretty quickly because this is like a regular pie dough in that you don't want it getting really warm. So if you have really hot hands or it's a hot day, then those are the times that I would lean towards the food processor, just so you can avoid letting the butter melt in there. We're also helping ourselves by using ice cold water. I've got a little cup of water over here with ice in it, so I know it is ice cold. And that is going to help us keep our dough integrity, get the texture that we want, get it flaky. That is usually the reason cited for keeping it cold so that butter doesn't melt completely. And then you've got little pockets of butter that melt when it bakes, and it gets flaky and lovely textured. So I will just flip this around with my hands to get all the butter covered in flour. Gives it a little insulation from my hot hands. And then I'm just pinching the dough, the flour, together with the butter with my fingers. And I'm looking for like peas or gravel or large breadcrumby consistency. So just so I don't have powdery flour and chunks of butter anymore, it's kind of become halfway incorporated together. Again, we want little chunks of butter in there because when we bake it, when it goes from cold to hot, it shocks it and gets us our lovely crumbly, not crumbly, crumbly is much different, our lovely flaky texture. Nowhere near the flaky layeredness that we would get if we were making a puff pastry, but the flake of a good pie dough. Hey Teo, how are you? You did make it. It's almost like we talked about this half an hour ago when we were playing Final Fantasy. This is going to be a quick one, I think. It's another reason I didn't weigh out everything when I before I started, because if I had, then this would have just been like 5 minutes of slapping it together, throw it in the oven, we're done. But that is one of the really nice things about this recipe and all the other ones like it. It is real fast. I mean, I did the cherries ahead of time, did that prep work, but otherwise, it's real easy, real simple, and it's going to come together nice and quick for us. So there is our flour. It's mostly, I mean, there's still some chunks of butter, but I want that. Yes, we played. You could log on and play Final Fantasy with us if you wanted, Jared. There's my crumbly texture. It is not quite just powdery flour anymore. So now I'm going to add my ice water sitting over here. There we go. And I will just mix that lightly together with a spoon until it just comes together. And I don't want to mess with this too much because I don't want it to get tough and I don't want it to get perfectly incorporated because, again, we're keeping those little bits of butter. And as fast as that, as soon as I put the water in, it's dough. So I'm gonna put a generous amount of flour on my board. And just tip this right out here. And get some flour on my hands as well. And just real quick, bring it together. Not kneading it like I would bread. But there we have it. See how quick that was? Even chatting and not really paying attention, it came together in literally 3 or 4 minutes. So, this is already ready. Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you for ordering the headset for me, Mark. He is always very concerned that I have the nicest equipment for things. I'm just gonna cut that dough in half and then roll out the other half. Still got plenty of flour on my board, so my rolling pin is not sticking. And I'm just rolling it out into an approximate circle. I will trim it to fit my pie tin, so I don't have to be completely perfect, which is great. Because as Mark can tell you, I am not also great at perfection. So I have this nice pie tin. That was a gift from my sisters-in-law, I believe. And throw my dough right in. And I'll just... Yeah, I didn't get quite enough, but that's fine. Should have done slightly more than half for the bottom of the dough because it is a bigger area to cover. But that's fine. Just grab some more off the side and kind of patch it. It's fine. You're not going to see it. And it all tastes the same. There we go. Just use your fingers and get your dough all the way up the sides. Cool. Yeah, and I have plenty of dough left to make a topper for this. So it'll officially be a pie now. Goodness. So there's my bottom crust here. And now I am ready to get my cherries together. Here is my liquid in there. That is just cherry and lime juice and some sugar. So, cherry lime syrup. Don't throw that out. That is going to be delicious. I could actually throw some right into my vodka tonic over here because it already has lime juice. Um, and I mean, cherry and lime, I put them together here. They're going to be good there too. All right. I'm just going to toss my cherries right into the bowl that I had them soaking in. And I've got a mix of some more sugar, cornstarch, and salt over here that I'm just going to mix into that. We did drain most of the sugar off, so there's not a whole bunch of sugar in it until I added some. The cornstarch is what is going to thicken the pie because it's just a fruit pie. There's nothing custardy or eggy that is going to give it structure. So that cornstarch is going to mix with the liquid that is left, and I probably will add a couple tablespoons of that liquid into here just to make sure it's a nice homogeneous solution. Yeah, we'll just throw another spoon. Just a couple spoonfuls. Here we go. And that can go right into our shell. And yes, normally I would probably do more filling than this, but this is all the cherries I had. I did not use. That's why I had the peach on the board earlier for my tester, because I didn't have any extra cherries to use for the tester, so I used the peach. But everything is literally the same, other than it's peach instead of cherry. So it's not going to be a tall pie, but whatever. It's still delicious. And if I had a slightly smaller pie tin, then it would probably be completely up to the top. I could also use this same dough. I did. Yeah, Emil. I haven't upgraded my uh, Twitch or added a bot or anything yet to put links in for me. So I'm still going to do it myself. But there's the YouTube. Check the YouTube tonight or tomorrow for the pasta salad recipe if you weren't able to catch it before. So then I've just got my little bit of dough left over and a little bit of flour left over on my board. And roll it out, and I can just put it right on top there. But I did this earlier, and it worked out okay. Wasn't It was slightly more difficult than I thought it would be. Imagine that. And good thing I paused because I also have some soft butter sitting over here to put on top of my cherries before I put the top layer on. So good thing I remembered that. Oh, good. Yeah, Mark's actually lurking in the chat. He took a break from his VR. So anyway, let's do that butter before I forget. Just gonna dot some around. Kind of reminds me of doing a curd where you just put a little bit of butter in at the end, and it's then a little bit of not salt because it's unsalted butter. It's a little bit of richness. It does a little bit of something for the final product that is nice. So it's one of these things that I saw them do on Bake Off at one point. Instead of doing a lattice where I cut strips and then weave them together, um, I saw someone just do little lines of cuts through it, and then it just kind of pulled apart and made like a quick lattice that way. And I say quick, but of course on the show it took him a significant amount of time to do it. It was actually slower with the smaller pie because I had to be more careful with the crust because it was a little bit, it was just smaller, delicate, smaller canvas. And you just kind of stagger the cuts so it pulls apart. Just kind of gives a little, kind of like making a snowflake as a arts and crafts project. And of course then the main trick is getting it onto your pie in a nice even fashion. And since that did not quite fill the tin, I've got some extra on the sides that I can trim off now. I'm just pinching together the edges. Pushing it down in. So really do anything you like with the top of the pie. Uh, Instead of making just a plain cover or doing a lattice, you could also just roll it out and get a cookie cutter and just cut out shapes and kind of, you did leaves, you could do a bunch of leaves around the top, or you could just cut out stars, or I've got a dog cookie cutter over there. I could use Cookie Cat. Mark made me a Cookie Cat cookie cutter, but that and the dog are probably both kind of big to throw on this, so that wouldn't work great in this scenario. But if I was doing like a tray pie, which is just a pie that's in a cookie tray, so it's huge, he could do something more fancy and elaborate like that. And I can already tell this is warming up the more I touch it and work with it and roll it out and everything. And the butter is melting, it's getting sticky, so this is not going to be it's not going to have the same integrity and the same texture, so I'm just not going to use it now because I've already played with it too much. Um, it's also just fun to play with, just a little gooey ball of dough. Anyway, last thing, I've got an egg, and I've got a brush, and I'm just going to do a little egg wash to help the crust get brown. It also helps stick your sugar to the top crust, because again, we didn't put very much sugar in the dough itself. So we'll just throw a bit on the top for some crunch and for some sweetness that it isn't in the dough itself. There we go. I could also have done this same thing just on a tray without a pie tin, and that would just be a tinless pie or a galette, or you can really do that. It's also a good use of this dough. And remember, you can throw any sort of fruit that you want in this, whatever is in season or whatever is in your freezer in this case. I've just got some coarse sugar that I'm throwing on top. It might be coarse sugar labeled, or it might be sanding sugar or demerara sugar. There's a bunch of names for it. But this is just lemon sugar from a local spice shop in Sacramento. I'm just going to throw this right in for 45 minutes or so. I'm not going to worry too much about checking it. I don't have to cook the fruit. It's already soft and ready to eat. My main things that I do want are, I want the liquid to boil, the juice that the cherries are in, because unless it boils, then the cornstarch won't be cooked all the way. It won't thicken and it'll taste like raw cornstarch or corn flour. It might also be called if you watch a lot of GBBO. So bubbling, boiling liquid, and then just brown crust, because then you know it's fully cooked. If your liquid is not bubbling and your crust is getting too brown when you check it in half an hour, 35 minutes, then you can just throw some foil on top. That'll help it not browning more or burning, but it'll let the inside cook some more. Um, and you really do got to make sure to cook this all the way through because it's not blind baked, because this is the same dough that I use to make a galette. So I don't have a form to blind bake it in usually. I just threw it in the pie tin for Teo's sake, really. Um, but yeah, you do want to make sure it cooks the full time so you know the bottom is done because it's not blind baked. That knife isn't sharp, Jared. I really need to get it sharpened. If you saw last week, you could tell that it was more of an effort than it should have been to chop all those vegetables. So that's in. It's just going to cook for a while. I'm not going to stand here and talk to you the whole time because that'd be silly. But I did the cooking show thing, and I have one to show you now, right? Right? Yeah. So I just had a mini little tart pan. It's a tart pan because of the shape, but I put a top on it so it's a pie, right? But it pops right out, except for where it bubbled up a little bit. That's what I was going to say, and I forgot. I would usually put a tray underneath that pie to keep anything that bubbled over the sides from leaking out into the bottom of the oven. Um, but since it didn't fill the pie tin up all the way, then I don't have to worry about it. So, right, Emil. But if I had done that, then I couldn't have used that same oven to preheat because this would have been cooking more, and I didn't want to. I didn't know what time it'd be now, so I didn't want to have it pulling out at the wrong time. Anyway, there's my lovely cooked bottom. No soggy bottoms here because I cooked it enough. There's the thing that I tried to do, the pulling apart on the top. That was harder to do with the smaller one. I think I actually need to do them even closer together. Didn't quite have the effect. But I did use the other oven. I used the toaster oven for these because they're tiny. Yes, because I'm. If I ever start making money from this and I start claiming it as a tax write-off, then yes, I could claim it as a deduction or something, or just remodel the whole kitchen, or just move to a bigger house with two kitchens, right? That'd be nice. Anyway, here's my lovely pie. I actually made two, and Mark actually ate one earlier, and he said it was good, so I'll trust him because it's a fast day and I'm not having a bunch of extra sugar today. But that's okay. It turned out lovely and delicious, and it will sit right there, and I'll eat it tomorrow, right? Goes great with some vanilla ice cream or just whipped cream. Mark apparently wants me to make ice cream now. Apparently he wants a root beer float now. I don't know. I'm not making ice cream. I don't have any cream right now. Yes, I use most of the cream. See, they don't even get the second side of the conversation because you can't hear him in my new mic. So, whatever. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my beverage. I'm going to. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't work tomorrow, so huzzah. And right, even stretching it out. It was only half an hour. So, there you have it. Cherry pie, fruit pie. Just give me whatever fruit. Something in season, something lovely. Taste your fruit, because if it is very sweet naturally already, you don't want to add any more to it. Complementary flavors. I did cherry with the limes. I did lemon with the peach. If it was something else, you could do a combo of fruits too. We have blueberries in the fridge. If I had, if I had apricots, I've done blueberry and apricot together. Those are a really good combination. Blueberries and pears. Um, Blueberries by themselves because these are just really good blueberries. Every once in a while, you get a batch that's really good. And then whatever like sweet spices. If I was doing just pears or apples, I probably would have thrown in some ginger or cinnamon or something, something warm. That's more of a Christmassy type feel. But yeah, whatever. Get your fresh fruit or frozen fruit. I guess that's one part you didn't get to see because since we froze those when we harvested them last year, we pitted them at the same time. So that was a step I got to skip. But even if you do buy frozen cherries, I would check them to make sure they're all pitted because we have had that problem before. But if you've done it yourself, then you don't need to worry so much. Any questions from anyone alive out there? There's the YouTube again. Feel free to check out my other recipes. Um, I had super fun time last week trying to upload the ice cream sandwiches recipe because Twitch was not indicating that it had accepted my request. And so I clicked the button like 18 times. And so, of course, I had 18 copies of the video uploaded the next morning. Good thing I have unlimited internet this month, or else I would be in trouble. Um, yeah, actually, I think I've served, maybe not to you guys before, but I've definitely made a smoothie before with frozen cherries and had to pull some pits out after blending. That was no bueno. Cool. So enjoy, get your fruit on, and let me know what you want to see cooked next week. Cheers, and remember, it's always good enough to eat.